You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. Could you please do me a favor? Subscribe, like, share, comment, follow, leave us a review, all of that fun stuff. Why not? We appreciate it. It helps get our content out to more and more people. And if you want to take the conversation beyond just what you're hearing on the podcast, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success, and join the Roofing Success Facebook group. Today, we have with us Tamara Chase from Chase Roofing in Florida. How are you today?
Awesome. Just finished lunch. I'm pumped up with tea.
Nice. Perfect. We caught you at the perfect time.
Yes.
Tamara, how did you get into roofing?
By accident.
Most.
I have to tell you, I sat down with my advisor and we wrote up a business plan. None of that happened. So my husband was a handyman right after getting let go from a large trucking company. And so 25,000 people let go overnight. And so he called up his friend and said, hey, can I join you in your handyman world? And so that happened. And very shortly after, I was like, I really think this could be a business. We're really meeting, we're touching on a cool, points and pain points of customers, of homeowners. And at the time we were also doing condos. And so anyway, we sort of said, I think this could be something. So we started growing and learning. And I was sort of like the behind the scenes person. I was setting them up, getting licensed, insured, logoed, marketing. My first job was business development.
Business development.
I would go to networking meetings and say, my husband can do this.
That's right. Spreading the word.
Yes. And so as we grew, I love systems and process, so I was helping with that part. And then in 2005, a hurricane came by, and we never really went back from GC. We were dabbling in roofing a little bit at the time, and then after that hurricane came, we switched over. That was like a pinnacle piece for us for switching into roofing, and we never really went back full time into GC work. So
I've heard that a few times from different contractors that they were doing it all, and then there was a one very impactful storm season that just said, hey, this is our core competency now. Yep. This is what we're going to do moving forward. Was it hard at any time letting go of those other services?
Yeah, in fact, we tried a couple different things. We tried bringing on a GC that had the main focus of it. We tried doing it in-house. We've just come back to realize that it's not worth the ding to the reputation when you're not fully focused on it. So when I took over the business part of it in 2010, and I don't even remember what book it was. I read a book at the time, and it talked about really just streamlining what you're doing. And so at the time, we were doing hurricane protection stuff, which was shutters. We were manufacturing shutters. We had our own Miami-Dade NOA. We were doing GC work, we were doing roofing, and I said, listen, I'm going to go down to just roofing, and then later, if we want to add something later, we're going to just really emphasize roofing. So that's how we ended up doing roofing. So
and that was, now we're talking about 12 plus years later of just being focused.
Yeah.
Do you see that focus as being part of the kind of the success that you guys have had?
I think the success we've had is women.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, there's a clear, I'm sure you're talking with roofing contractors all over the place. There's a clear difference between construction now and
there is.
the old way and even what the next chapter will be. So I think there's been a lot of husband and wife teams. I think the men got a lot of credit for the technical part, and then that worked up until a few years ago. And then my thing is champion women, all the women that are in construction companies that aren't getting their due credit, because it totally takes both sides. I would not be here if it was not for my husband and the technical part, and we wouldn't have a company if it wasn't for me and and you know, the parts that I bring. So I'm like a big champion of women in construction, because
Yeah,
the thing that they bring to it is what makes it a business.
that
It's
that's for sure.
yeah,
That's
so
for
it's
sure.
really, and for a long time, you know, I for a long time when I took over in 2010, there was a several years of period where it was really rough, because you know it's male dominated, and so people, you have a lot of the dynamics that go on with that. So people would go around me, they go to him, they go, you know, it was sort of like mom and dad. If I didn't like her answer, I'd go to him, and then it was like issues with husband and wife things. It was a real thing, and so we had to get through some of that, and thankfully I've been firsthand witness of what it's like to go past that stage of just being frustrated that they're not doing it the way you would do it, and they're frustrated because you're not doing it the way they would do it. And now I feel like, thank goodness we don't do it like each other, you know, both of us
For
together are what makes it a better whole. So
Definitely. And I that makes me think not just within the relationship of you guys as husband and wife, as the business owners, but even with your employees too. There's
right.
some times where their impact in developing a process or a system or something like that, they the way that they bring it up or look at it might be different, but
Yeah,
it could be potentially could be more efficient than the way you thought of
of
originally.
course.
And so there's
But
always challenges in working with people. Let's start there. I mean, how hard was it not to take work home with you guys all the time?
yeah, we definitely had to set up parameters, boundaries. We still do it sometimes, but very, very rarely. We're really good with saying something like, This is our internal dialogue." It'll be like,
Mm,
um, "I don't want to talk about this all night, but I want to tell you about this one thing that happened." And then you have like 1 minute. And if
yeah,
it goes into more discussion, then the other person will say, "Okay, let's table that and talk about this at another time," because we could talk about it all day and all night. And
all day and all night.
yeah,
Yeah, there is.
and probably
Yeah,
really passionately and happily, you know, and not even like
yeah,
when you're disagreeing, but like just the bandwidth of taking up your evening is a thing. So that's what we do. I don't know what other people do, but we try not to talk about things at night. You know, I'm tired.
yeah,
He's tired. We're
yeah.
all, and you
Here's
know,
your
even
one
if you're
minute.
not
Take your
tired,
1 minute. Yeah,
yeah, even if you're not tired, do you really want to spend your time together?
yeah.
You want to spend yeah,
Separating work and home life. I mean, it's hard enough as a business owner, period, right? Like,
yeah,
but when you have someone that's at home that is actually sharing in the experience of the day to day of the
right,
business, you know, I could see how that would add a layer of complexity to it, right?
yeah,
Like, so
yeah. That's where time comes in.
yes,
The benefit of what in your experience has worked and hasn't worked.
yes, for sure. So, how have you seen things change? I know you're a big proponent and champion of women in construction. You're part of National Women in Roofing. You do a lot in that regard. How have you seen the landscape change over the last 20 years?
I have seen women choosing to be in this industry, and not just because their husband was in it and then they're helping. That's very different. And
I have interviewed them on my podcast. I know
I
what you're saying.
love
It's
it.
different. That is a big change for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, and the men are the men we have now are awesome. We're running. We still have good old boys, but there's not as many.
No,
And men realize the value that women have, just like women recognize the value men have. So, you know, and not everybody is cut out or wants to do a position just because of the gender. So there's people that enjoy being outside and swinging the hammer, and there's people that enjoy being inside even though they're a guy. Like, it's like this, the gender part is definitely been different. Like, in fact, when we're hiring, we don't really do it it's not by gender. It's like, first of all, do you want to be inside or outside? And then we give assessments and stuff to see like what their strengths are, where they're going to be happy for a long time, not just 6 months, but where
for
where
sure.
where do they have a desire to be. Sometimes they don't even know what they want, they just know they want something different. So we'll do assessments and stuff to see where is it possible. Your wealth dynamics say that you're really great as this, we can develop you into that position.
Definitely. And that is, it definitely isn't gender. It is the
Yeah.
person, so much of the person and how they're wired.
Right.
We do in hiring for our business, we use different things that we look at. We'll do a Kolbe assessment. If you've
Yeah.
ever heard of those, we do sometimes we'll do a DISC assessment, things like that. And that just, if you've never done that for yourself, you should really do these assessments,
It's really
right?
eye-opening to see, like, maybe where you're frustrated is because you're doing something that doesn't make you happy. And yes, we
That's
can
right.
all do lots of things. That doesn't mean you're happy doing it. So, like yesterday, I was doing this presentation, and some of the girls from the office came to it. And one of the girls that is my key person on the phone, she's so good on the phone. Like, I come in sometimes and I'm like, you sound so good. Like, it's just, delicious. And she got in front of everyone and she's like, hi, my name is, and
Uh-huh.
she was so introverted. So it was so cool to see that in this arena, she's not going to want to go out and be the spokesperson for things. But internal, she loved customers. She loves that customer service, but she doesn't want to do it face to face. So it's just really interesting to hone in on where someone's strengths are.
Yeah.
I know, like, my husband's part of it. He has no interest in speaking in front of anyone. So he gets nervous when all you have to do is say, hi, my name is John. He doesn't want to do that. He has no interest in it. He'd much rather talk one-on-one with a customer and, find the solution for what they're really needing. Like, that's his strength.
Yeah.
That's his thing. So I think a lot of it in the positions are really seeing what you want to do. I don't know where
For
it
sure.
came up that the guy is the president and the girl isn't. Maybe the guy doesn't want to be the president.
That's right.
So that's interesting in construction, because that's like old norms and we're seeing new norms come along.
Yeah, things have changed so much. It's just, a lot of that is just, it doesn't, it's still in our conversation, but I don't know if it matters as much.
It is.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
it's still in our conversation, but I don't see it in real life as much, I guess.
Yeah. I would say I see it in conversation because we have a different emotional intelligence on men that are showing up, and so they don't quite understand because they aren't really a part of that. And at the
Yeah.
same time, this hasn't been the easiest for the guys either, because say somebody doesn't think that way and they don't necessarily think gender first and all of that, they're still able to hold a place because the girls still are dealing with it. Whether they understand it or not, they still are. Like, it.
Yeah.
I literally heard yesterday in a networking meeting, somebody they were introducing to somebody else, trying to introduce me, and it was a little loud. And what he heard is, do you know the CEO of Chase Roofing? And that's what he heard. And he said, no, I'm not sure if he's here. But he's like, no, the girl was like, no, she's right here. She's just, this is a CEO.
That's right. Yeah.
So there's still, there's
Little
still
things like the assumptions. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Yep.
Well, why wouldn't there be? Most of them are.
That's true. Yeah, that's very true. So let's start with you. You mentioned something kind of early on a couple minutes ago in our conversation. You said that you started seeing the pain points and solving the pain points of the homeowners.
Yeah.
Let's speak to that a little bit. What through your time, and I'm sure this has evolved through time, but what are the pain points that you solved initially, and how has that evolved into kind of what have you molded that into today?
A lot of it is communication, and that there's a gap of expectation between the technical part of what's being done and the desired outcome for the homeowner. So that's where the that's where a lot of the credit goes to girls. And that's why I say, in a typical situation 20 years ago when I started in this industry, you would have XYZ service being done. So somebody would come out and do it. Say it's electrician. They come out and they do their thing. And I look afterwards and there's sawdust underneath the electric plate. So did they do everything correct? Technically, yes. But who had to go clean up the sawdust from the electric plate underneath? Like, he's not even aware. He's like, did my thing. I'm out. So the homeowner's either going to clean it up, or a girl in the office is going to say, did you clean it up? Because that's something that girls bring to the table, like this study. I'm not saying all girls, and I'm not saying all guys. I'm saying, typically speaking, the electrician comes and does the skill part, not the aesthetics or the customer experience. So I want to say the beginning stages of it was, a lot of it was communication and getting on the same page expectation-wise, and then making it right if we messed up, or if we weren't clear enough at the beginning and the homeowner has a different expectation. Guess what? The homeowner doesn't care about that. That's us. So I use that as like learning, teaching moments. Okay, how can we do this better so that we're setting the stage up front and having a clear boundary of, this is where our job starts and stops. This is what you can expect. So part of it was at the beginning doing that, and just the organization of that. So I always say, like, we're not installing roofs and repairing roofs. We're really creating a system so that when you call in, it gets done. Those are two different things, because the first one, you can have a one-man show do that. When you get into more than one person, you really have to have a system. So that probably thread of how can we bridge that gap of expectation with homeowners has been a thread forever. Our big thing the last couple of years is internally, the language is the customer wow experience. So that's something that we're using all the time. We're really looking at it from a customer's point of view and giving them an experience instead of just doing the technical part. So that's where we're really bridging those two together. And there's so many cool things that you can look at, either from other industries to, bring over. And it's pretty easy to shine in roofing when you do things like this, right? It's
when you answer the phone, sometimes you can shine in roofing, which is unfortunate. But I think the industry is also evolving a lot towards that. There are some really great owners out there that are making strides in
Their association's another one. Like, I'm really a big component of our local roofing association, and the reason is because their heart is in that pattern. Like, they're really focused on how do we raise the roofing industry as a standard. So we're very, we have awesome members all the time. I'll refer, when I see something, I'll say, hey, check out the Roofing Association, because everybody that's in there is not only the credentials correct, they're above, they're really, really trying, and their aim is to do things right. They really are.
I do. I believe that. And I believe that those are who I talk to the most, right? The people that are in the associations or at the conferences or at an event learning, whether it's a Chuck Toki sales event or, or the IRE or wherever, there's a group of people there that, it could be 3,000, it could be 100, sometimes it could be 10,000, but those are the ones that are moving the industry forward.
Absolutely.
Being a participant in all of these events and things and learning what other people are doing. if you're not evolving, your business is dying. It,
Mhm.
you know,
It
and
sure
so
is.
how did you develop your customer wow experience? Like, what stage of your business did you start to implement that? Was it during that startup phase? Was it was it while you were scaling, or was it kind of now that you've kind of established yourselves as a, as a very strong brand in your market?
I would say it's always been there.
Okay.
So part of it is the experience as we learn and grow and get better. We're able to do things at a better level, and then you have at the same time growing. And so every time you grow, you essentially have to look at what does this umbrella look and how does that work, because a lot of it is a communication. And so if I've done a lot of the positions because we started off with just a couple people, right? And so when I was doing wearing a lot of hats, it's easier for me to know what I'm doing because it's me. Now when you have five people doing my position, that's where it gets difficult. So it may have been the same concept of how do I give that customer experience, but it's a constant revamping and a constant learning in this stage. How do we do it with these people, and how does success look like that? It seems like it's the same conversation over and over, but as you
It,
grow, you have new people. They are not in your brain. They didn't have your experience. It's a constant training.
I heard something recently, and that like, as the business owner, you have a lot of times you have so much experience in what you're doing that, when that new person comes into your business, what you think is common sense is not. It is years of learning
As
that
years
you are like,
ago.
it's subconscious to you, but it was years of learning that, and
Right.
being able to accept that and step back and say, okay, how can I take what's in here and put it into a process to train?
Yep.
And that's where I think you had also kind of spoken to this a little bit, is now it was one person doing this job and now it's five. How do we make five equal experiences? How do we navigate that? And so how have you done that?
A lot of training. It is something that we are constantly doing. We have motivation meetings every Monday where we share that the book we're reading together, and then we literally hang up the phone and start 15 minutes later with our direct reports meeting, and we all so it's very intentional, and and being open to the feedback of the other people that are coming in. Sometimes they have better ideas than what we've been doing in the past. And sometimes slowing down is what's necessary to get them in line. Sometimes we need something new. Maybe what we did in the past didn't work now. So um, we're starting a training program internally to getting not just a formal training, so a written with videos and formal training. So that's something we've been working on here. It's interesting because say you have one set of best practices, it changes when the rain starts, and it changes when this season, and it affects other departments differently. So it is a lot. If it were easy, everyone would be doing it.
That's
But it's
right.
also challenging and fun, and it's
There's a
it's good.
I coach other digital marketing agency owners, and in the group that I'm in, what the guy that runs the group is, he likes, it's the, and it's not, I don't think he made it up, but it's learn to teach, right? And I love that, because when you learn it, you learn enough. Then when you do it, you learn it on a different level. But when you have to teach it to someone else, you have to look at it from a whole nother perspective. And so as you've gone through and developed trainings for each of these processes and systems in your organization, like you said here, well, what if it's raining or not raining? Like, as you have gone through this, how has that experience been?
Well, I feel very blessed to have an incredible team. So It's been before we're going through a growth the last year. We've actually been growing every year, but not on purpose. We've really reined it
Hmm.
in and we really worked on our systems and processes for a couple years. And then we worked on the development of the leaders. So just the whole management team and really being more cohesive with that. So that was very strategic how we did that. I don't know how other people do it, but that's how we did it. And so now that we're growing, I already have the foundation with these managers that we can now go to that next step. So a lot of it is just, what's going on with this? What are you seeing? What's in your circle right
Yeah.
now? And communicating and, having the tiers to where each level is really, I look at it as sort of collaborative method. So, I have four key people that help run the business. So I look at them as one person. So, the
Hmm.
accounting manager can only do the accounting manager the best they can with the knowledge they have. So there's a certain level of collaboration they need to do with, the production and, there's just a
Yeah,
lot that
because there's overlap in
yeah,
the
there's
yeah.
overlap, and there's just I need to know this information over here so that I can do my area better. So, like the exposure to the other departments creates a situation when they're truly honoring each other and not feeling like, oh, a territorial thing. We've seen it all, and
Yep.
I'm really happy with what we have now. You know what I mean? It's very very intentional. It's um it's it's the creation that all of them together is so much better as a whole than it would ever be individually.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's how we navigate through most of this. It's just a
So
constant
with
checking
those
with
four
each
key
other.
roles, I like to go into that a little bit more. Those four key roles. So that's kind of the head person in that area, right? So that you said
Yeah,
accounting manager and then
yeah. We
like
don't have
production
a
manager, maybe.
typical. I don't have like a typical setup that other married
Yeah.
people who own a roofing business do. My husband enjoys the sales part, so he does repair estimates. And the bandwidth that frees up because we've had experiences in the past where that's not the easiest position to do. There's other dynamics in there, conflicts of interest in there. There's lots of things in there, and when I have the owner who can go out and do that, and I know 100% of the time where he's at, it just makes everything else smoother. So part of why I'm able to do what I do is because he owns that role.
Yeah.
And so then the other key roles are, we have accounting manager, sales manager, and then we have two ops position, one that's inside that does the repair department, and then the vehicle maintenance, like anything inside the warehouse, the shop, the tile yard, all of that. And then we have an outside one. So the outside one handles everything on production, and then so all four of those together need to collaborate.
For sure.
They have to beat to the same drum.
Definitely. And that's that the communication between, because they are their own thing, but they what they do, it touches everything else,
It
right?
touches
So
everything else.
and so it's very important to do that. So as you were growing, you stepped out of maybe one of those roles and handed it off to that key player, or how did you do that as you were growing?
So my outside operations person has been with me. I don't want to say it wrong. Maybe 7 years, eight
Okay.
years, a long time. And so so I've had a consistency there for a long time. My service manager, I did that role for a while. We've had a couple other people do that role for a while, and then we didn't have anybody doing that role. Ours is a little different than other people, other companies. So it's kind of hard to describe it with it, but it's just I don't have as a male figure, somebody who's involved daily like there is another situation. So I've always had to go with the character and the trust factor on a lot of stuff because I'm not the technical person. So
Hmm.
in our setup, that's how it's worked. I've had somebody that I trusted to manage that, and on the service side, I'm more involved because it's Our repair guys are all employees, whereas on our re-roof sides, those are subs. So, but those subs have been with us the same amount of time as my production. So,
Yeah.
a very long time. They're just good character people that, they care about the employee as much as I do. And they care about customer service as much as I do. So, I've had the freedom of that, and then I've had my accounting girl, she's just getting ready to leave, and we're bringing on somebody new, but she was with me for almost 9 years. So, I've had a couple of key people that were with me a very long time that sort of gave me that freedom as we did grow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's a little different
And
than
that's
I
what,
know other people do.
but that's why the conversation is good, right? Because it doesn't have to be the same.
Yeah, we
There,
just had to do what worked for us.
exactly. There is no one way. You could talk to, I do talk to a lot of contractors, and some of them, are, kind of real skeleton crew, door to door, get it done, sub crew, and knock it out. And they're very they're very good at it. And then there's others that have, large internal teams, and they're and so many different ways to structure your business. You will have to learn how to do that as you go along and make the adjustments to not to just your personality, where
Yeah,
you fit into the company,
right,
where
right.
your strengths lie.
Yeah, I know. I'd say like that's great advice because, until you look at what your company's overhead and structure is, you're not going to know what true costs are. It doesn't matter what somebody else is doing. Their system is different. Their overhead's different. Everything's different. So I always think it's so funny when I hear, oh, we're over this by square and I'm over here by square. And I'm like, I don't want to hear anything by square. I don't care about it by square. Divide it out to make sure, yeah, you're in the right ballpark and you didn't do an addition problem. But other than that, I mean, every job's different. Every business is different.
That's right. That's right. It is for sure. Okay, so I think we have a couple of things that I want to talk about. Okay, so through the years, how have you guys marketed your business?
That's one of my favorite subjects.
Perfect.
I love marketing. I I love I love the message and and the conversation it has. I've definitely not done things by anything that you had to copy because there's nothing in there was when 20 years ago there was nothing in the roofing industry with advertising, and it's just they're very behind the schedule of
Yeah.
the rest of the industries. So I have always been intrigued in that. I did a marketing class not long ago, a marketing seminar, and it was the first time that I realized that I had my own set of standards and like the core boundaries that I was having for networking, and I didn't realize that there were that structure that it was just in my head, and I realized during that seminar that what some of those were. So it's interesting that if I were to let other people just do whatever on marketing, it would be all over the place, and because
Yeah.
everybody's doing it their way. So I'm very, very picky about that. I'm very picky about what it looks like and streamlining the message and the look. I've had people just make up our logo and they think it looks normal, and I'm like I have a visceral reaction looking at it. So I just love marketing. I love having the same connection, the same conversation through everything we do. So when you go to a networking, they should be getting the same feeling as when they see us, as when they're calling us for, you know what I mean? Like that, it should
Yeah.
be authentic and it should go into all the areas. You should feel like you're working with the same company no matter where you see us.
That's
So
right.
part of that is just because we just did it organically. When I made everything go through my final list to make sure before it went out that it was aligned with that, and went from there. Now I have
Yeah.
a lot of people that help me in the marketing. I have one person that helps the social media, and then I have an SEO person. Like Those
Yeah.
are very important, and let people do what they do really well. I
Well,
don't think that one person's going to be able to do all of that when you get big enough,
no, no, that's a big challenge. I, I have that conversation a lot of,
Yes.
okay, you want to hire one person to do all
Yes.
of that and
Yes.
to do it well.
Yeah. And
There's a lot
and
of, there's
yeah.
limitations there. So one thing that you talked about, so that I look at branding as a subset of marketing, and what I heard from you is brand
Yep.
and the communication of the imagery and the voice of the brand through written or verbal communication.
Mhm.
So that's what we're talking about there
Yeah.
for people listening. There the brand, your brand has a life of its own almost, or
Right.
it embodies the life within the company, if that's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
And you said that you had these kind of, you had it in your head, but you've realized recently that I have this, we're working with a company that does work with Lowe's, and we're doing a co-branded ad with Lowe's, and they sent over their brand guide, and it's 115 pages, and
Wow.
it says what each angle of the Lowe's logo roof means. Like, it is very descriptive, and that's
Right.
a corporate brand guide is much different. But when we are developing our brand, you sometimes have that in your head. So what are some of those things that you're like, oh, these are the parameters, these are the
Yeah.
guidelines or
So
brand,
a lot of it is I don't like it to be where it's just about Chase Roofing. I know this sounds strange because it's about Chase Roofing, but the only person that really cares about Chase Roofing is me and my mom. So I look at it as, what is the homeowner looking for? What am I
yeah,
looking for when I'm looking for a conversation. I'm not looking for a bunch of technical talk that I don't understand. I'm looking at, are you able to provide the service that I'm looking for and be aligned with me and and get it done to completion in the parameters and the time and the amount of money that we agree on. So that to me is what the homeowner's looking for. They're not looking at,
yeah,
do you know technically what it is? So it's
yeah.
sort of an advantage that it didn't start in the company swinging a hammer, because everything I do is from the homeowner's perspective. When
Yeah.
we did our own roof in our own house, we had a horrible experience. It was before we were in roofing, and it was a horrible experience. And that's one of the things that got us into dabbling with roofing, because I'm like, we can do it better than that. That was horrible. So
And
everything's really like, how do we go back to the homeowner?
that's a great point. It's that the homeowner has to be able to put themselves into your marketing. So
Right.
I always see contractors posting on social media before and after, and it's, look at this new OC duration estate gray.
Yeah.
Isn't it cool? No, the homeowner does not care one bit
Exactly.
what shingle manufacturer you installed on a roof, what color it was, and right. But that's the standard
That's the
post.
standard.
And I try to explain to them that how, or talk to them about how can you put the homeowner into that same post? Well, the way you do it is you talk about the owners of the home. Hey, we were working with the Joneses, and they have been living in this house for 25 years, and it became time for their roof to be replaced, right?
Yeah.
And now, through our 0% financing option, they got a brand new roof. And now when someone reads that, they go, oh, that could be me.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, so I like a couple before and after here, and would probably do them a couple times a year. But the rest of it is communicating with the homeowner on what their interests are, or
Yeah.
entertaining them. Our company
Entertain them.
is
Yep.
more than just, you probably also care that the staff answering the phone are, mean, or bad people, or maybe the people come into your home aren't bad people.
Yeah.
So, the character and the values of the company are probably also important, and not
Very
just
important.
words on a wall, which ours are on a wall, but not just that, but like living it. Like the culture is living
Yep.
how you want to show up and how you decide to show up.
Expressing those core values on a day-to-day basis, and
Yes.
and showing the homeowner that through your social media posting, through your website, how you word your website, is that what I'm hearing
Yep.
from you?
Yeah. So
So
I think homeowners care more that we're not just saying that we care about people, that we went and volunteered with people that are helping people. I think they care more about that and seeing you physically doing something than just talking about it.
yeah. And that's one of the things. I mean, you guys do a lot of. We could kind of transition to that since you said it a little bit. Is you guys do seem, what is it? The cancer fighting
Yeah.
contractors. I'm looking at the Dolphins Cancer Challenge. You have all kinds of causes
Yeah.
that you're involved in, right? Speak to that a little bit, and
Okay.
why that's important in your business.
Well, I grew up volunteering. I didn't know there was any other way to do things. It was just a part of my family's values and what we just did. And and I was surprised at how many people aren't doing that. And what I realized, it's not that they don't want to, they just not been exposed or known what to do or whatever. So I just use it as an excuse and a platform to get people involved and touch a different part of their life. So my husband had cancer in 2014. So that he was actually training for the Dolphin Cancer Challenge when that year happened. So he had a 16% chance of surviving, and everything screeched to a halt for a year. And so after that cause was very important to us. So we formed a team, and I didn't want it to be the Chase Roofing show, so I called it the Cancer Fighting Contractors. And we
Yep.
actually have a lot of people from a roofing association that are competitors that are on the same team. And it just makes me so flippin' happy because it's just being a part of something bigger than you or your business. Something,
Yeah.
it's super important to me. And I love creating the team and the work that it takes involved. It creates an experience, basically. So not only are you raising money, but a lot of the people that I know on our team wanted to be involved, but they didn't want to do the fundraising. So I figured out a way to get sponsorships for that, and then that way they could ride without having the stress of, it's easier for me to put on Facebook, would you like to donate to my team? They don't necessarily have that option. So,
Mm,
you know what I mean? I
yep.
didn't want that. I wanted them to be a part of it. So I loved
Yeah.
looking and seeing how can we, co-collaborate, co-create here and figure out so that we can all be a part of it. And, there's some people that want to sponsor and not do the actual physical activity. So just match them
Yeah.
together. And
Yeah.
I just love it. I love seeing them say, this is the best, and then bringing somebody else the next time. It's more powerful than I can explain.
And I think that it's not just powerful like for the people involved, like it's powerful for the business in general. It also can empower the people within the business to understand that there's a purpose beyond what just putting on a roof and making a profit in the company that I work for, and that is very it creates stickiness.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a perfect example. I insist on making a profit. That's what we need to do, but that's
Right.
not why
Yep.
I come to work in the morning. I mean, underneath it all, it's creating a platform to be able to bring people in our community together, and it's an experiment with us. This is like a fun game that it's like real life experiences of how we can touch people's lives. How can we elevate each other to the next level up? How can we learn together? How can we, like, that's what it's all about. It's the money part is, you need to have the money part, otherwise you don't have a company. That's assumed.
That's right.
So what's the rest of it? The rest of it is what's more important to me.
So on your team, like the Dolphins Cancer Challenge is near and dear to your heart because of very very close relationships, having dealt with cancer and things like that. Have you done anything within your team to allow them to bring in the causes that they enjoy, and you guys kind of do something to help them in that regard?
Yeah, so we that's how we got involved with Make a Wish. That was
Okay.
real important with the roofing association, and so they've had a team. I don't know, several years now, and amazing amount of money. I mean, this association works all year round for this. They do a big event. It's coming up this year in July, and they're having the kickoff. I mean, in June they're having the kickoff soon. It's just an amazing thing they do every year, and they go down the Keys and they take over. There's like so many people, like thousands of people are involved with this. It's like crazy, and that's a big something somebody else introduced to me that wasn't like near and
Yes.
dear. Another one was
Yep.
Rebuilding Broward. When you start talking to people and you start seeing how these things are touched, it's how people's lives are touched, and how people aren't always given the same chances as everybody. So
Yeah.
if you have something that can help give someone a leg up, then we do it.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. But then I think that's, I've talked to, I don't know if you know Charles Antis from Antis Roofing out in he's in Orange County, California. He does a lot of great, almost philanthropic work, I guess I would call it, similar to what you guys are doing over on the, in the Eastern Seaboard there, where he's on the West Coast over there. He just like, first of all, your brand is different in the community. People almost treat you differently. They look at you differently.
Hmm.
Like, do you experience that too?
I do.
Yeah.
The only words I can describe it is I'm so proud to be a part of it, and it's not something that you can create on purpose. It's
Yeah.
something that just evolved over time with the unique people that we had. We've had so many caring people with good character be a part of how that has really evolved. It's amazing. I feel that people treat us differently, and there's a softness and a respect that I feel that feels really good. It's just
Yeah.
really cool to be a part of.
So that's cool. And I like what you said about there's the people you've had a lot of people in your business that have helped evolve that. But as an owner, you also have to allow that to thrive
Yep. And
inside
you
of
have to
your
also
business.
lead it. So, the
You have
culture is a
to.
big thing
That's
of
right.
mine for many, many years. We have every quarterly meeting, we talk about culture. In fact, we
Yep.
give out awards based around culture. We give a monthly Chase Champion parking spot that they get under the cover spot, and parking is a big issue in our place. So they get a cover spot, and that's given out based off of culture. So it's something that has to come from the top, and then it takes on a life of its own. But there's boundaries that I set real clear with culture. There are things that are non-negotiable that we've even learned the hard way. When you let somebody come in and they are not aligned with you culture, that can become a cancer really quickly. It can take you down. So we've even learned the hard way of,
Can you
you
give
know,
me an example of the hard way?
well, we had some training on, with management on, say conflict resolution and a healthy way to have conflict and get through things, and instead of being a victim, or, drilling down at people and yelling at them. So how do you have that conflict? And then somebody came in that worked here and was like silently going to like individual people and really causing a lot of drama, which is completely opposite of everything that we just learned in our conflict resolution thing, which is when you see drama and even when you ignore it, you're part of it now, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
your inaction is an action. So we let that person go and do that until it became like a big thing, and it was not a good situation, So, after that person left, we really had some serious conversations, and we're like, listen, we have to protect this culture. We have to defend it. And when somebody comes in that's not a right fit, you have to say something if you see something. By ignoring it, you're part of the problem. So, after that situation, it's easier to now say, okay, yep, nope, I'm not letting this, I'm not going to stand by this on my watch.
Yeah. I've heard core values. I've heard it. It was on for a company, when you're establishing your core values, sometimes you're thinking of the things that you want as your core values. There's an exercise that you can do where you take that employee and the thing that they did that you hate, that you dislike immensely, and you take the opposite of that as your core value. And then you're able to, you're able to measure that, the way that people in your business are operating within those core values, and measure them against that. And there, it's the old hire slow, fire fast kind of thing, right? Like as soon as you are understanding of this is before it gets to be too much, right? Because it could be infectious in your business.
It can.
So what do you think the greatest insight is that you can share with our audience that has found you guys find success in roofing?
Have the right people around you and on your team. Know your numbers, and don't compare it to other people's numbers. Your numbers are your numbers. And protect your reputation. I think those are all really key, facets of our success. I mean, reputation is super important. That means one person at a time. What is the right thing to do right here? And sometimes that costs money, and that's okay. Reputation is worth more than that. So after a few years, we turned around and we said, wow, look at all these people rooting for us. And it was simply because we just did the right thing, the best we could, and we're not perfect, but we really, really try. We really try hard. So.
Awesome. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.